All right, good afternoon, shifters in the house. Welcome to
This is
season
the finale of
5
season 5.
finale. You know what I didn't do this whole season was put down what actually maybe I did for episode 2. Season 5, episode 1, I think I missed, and then season 5, episode 2. And I think I stopped right after that.
Who's counting? They just show up to see us. Nobody's counting. Because this season, actually, we went one episode less because it's summer. And we just ended it at 4 instead of going 5 this season because we can. It's our show. So today, I'm curious,
You're
always.
curious.
Yeah.
And Dina's curious Canuck too, I hear.
Yeah, I am. Yeah. That's really fun. Actually, that's really fun because I want people to be less judgmental and more curious.
Mm-hmm.
And starting with themselves, like be more curious about themselves, be more curious about others. Things aren't what you necessarily assume. So
No.
let's ask. And I think that really fits the show that we're doing today too, because uh, you see someone and you make a judgment on their appearance, you make snap decisions, and we do it innately, like it's actually is a reflex that's built into us. I don't know if you've
Yeah.
read Malcolm Gladwell's book Blink, but we do it subconsciously,
Yeah.
and that is usually more accurate than the judgment that then follows. So when we sense something, we downplay it. We're like, no, I don't buy that. I want to think differently. And
Yeah.
so by hearing other people's stories, like what we're going to do today, I think it's so important for us to just pause and go, okay, wait a minute, is that true? What
Yeah.
made me just think that? Either about yourself, which we're so super hard on ourselves, or other people.
Absolutely. Thinking because I know we're gonna hop into the weight stuff and everything. One thing that I kind of love, like just because we talked about this right now, is seeing overweight people in the gym, bigger people, whatever. And it's like, why do we want to judge them? I don't know why. Like, so, you look and you're like, well, why are you at the gym? I look at it going, these are the people that we should be looking up to, going, wow, like they have this courage, knowing very well lots of people will probably look at them, but they're there for the same reason as everybody else. They're there to better their body, their health. They're trying to lose their weight. They're trying to whatever. Even if, sometimes there is obesity problems in families that is hereditary. So it's a lot harder, and there's certain things that work for weight loss, some things don't. Exercise may or may not work, whereas diet may or may not work. Whereas the two together might not work, or the two together might work. So it really depends, as well on that side, where a lot of people don't think it can be hereditary, right? So there can be quite a lot of problems in families that are just like, they don't know. Like
Well,
they,
and
you know,
there's some conditions, there's some not even like hereditary, but sometimes they're on certain medications that can
yeah,
alter it, or they've been this weight for all their life and then they hit a certain age and maybe the hormones go wacky and all of a sudden they're putting on weight and they don't know what to do about it, or
yeah,
you can't judge and make assumptions. And I've heard people make a comment, they'll see somebody walking and I'm like, they're out walking, they aren't just sitting on the couch giving up. They're
yeah,
trying, like that's some steps you haven't taken today. Like,
right.
hello.
There's
Yeah.
your
So
10,000 steps a day, right? Okay, is 10,000 steps a day a myth or fact? Do we need 10,000 steps a day?
I don't get 10,000. It's apparently a guideline, but again, it isn't one and done. It's the same for everybody. For some, if they can move 100, that is huge because
Yeah.
it's who knows what they're dealing with, right? So I just think any movement is a
Total
win.
myth. Yeah. I think it's a total myth as well, because it's the same thing, right? And not just like walking. Some other people, like even myself, I do cleaning. So I'm not like consistently, like I am sort of consistently walking around, but you're moving up and down and you're cleaning and you're, vacuuming, you're doing stuff, whatever. You're not necessarily walking and, and lifting weights as moving couches and whatever's like everyone's
Hey,
own gym.
you know what else?
When I do cleaning, right? Yeah,
You
what
know what
else?
else? Sex counts.
Right?
Yes. I was tracking any activity, anything that would burn calories on a fitness app. And I
Oh
was like,
yeah.
wait a minute. I know
Mhm.
somewhere else where I work up a sweat sometimes. That has to count for calorie burns. I'm gonna find out how many minutes and how many calories, and I'm counting that shit.
Depends if you're doing more work or not.
Anyways, let's bring our guest on.
Well, this is we're good because this is a welcome guest. Hold on. This is the uncensored show, so we're allowed
Yeah,
to
I know. We're allowed to go
talk.
down nothing's
Any
off
road.
limits.
We can go down that road. We're on it. We'll ride it.
I thought I'd just
Whatever
get that
works.
out of the way. Welcome, Anna.
Welcome, Anna. Speaking of
Hello.
cleaners, welcome,
Actually,
welcome.
aren't you a repeat guest? I think we've had you on before.
Yeah, I talked about organizing my life and life with kids, I think, last time. So thanks for having
Yeah.
me again.
Oh, this is
Okay.
awesome. Yeah.
Well, Anna's going to take over the show, and I'll see you guys later.
No, you're the
So,
pro at this. I'll stick to just telling my story.
Okay, that would be fabulous because I think I've briefly heard your story before, but I don't know your full story. So, Dina, we were figuring out what do we kind of want to do for our finale show, and what are some other topics that we want to bring in for season 6. And I had mentioned, weight shifts would be kind of interesting because everyone's all about weight, but usually it's a New Year's resolution, but I don't want to even talk about New Year's resolutions
it's
because people
bikini
start
season.
them whenever. And usually, like, people are worried about the swimsuit season. Swimsuit season's pretty much over. So why not talk about it
Did it
now
even
when it's
start?
not?
It's
Did it
not over.
start?
It's not over.
I was in the
I'm
kiddie
in one
pool.
right now.
Well, I apparently there's some sun out there because
Yeah.
this is Cobb's Adventure Park though, so no swimming there. That's where you find it at Cobb's. But I want to know your story because Dina said Anna would be a perfect guest to come on to talk about weight shifts because she's had quite the journey. And I said, sure, like let's do it because then I can learn a little bit more about your journey and others will too. So yeah, be great.
Well, yeah, I mean, I can start from the very beginning of, childhood trauma and living up or growing up in a home, domestic violence. Um, it's hard to talk about those sorts of things, but they do
Yeah.
follow us, and it does impact us in ways that we don't even recognize. And so I come from a family where it's very communal, and everything is celebrated around food, mourned around food, all sorts of things. And so
Right.
it's very ingrained in who I was. But I learned very quickly that it was one of my coping strategies, actually, of how I dealt with life. And I didn't realize that I was doing it until I got to be an adult when it became a problem. And so at my heaviest, I was 300 pounds. And since I guess 6 years ago, on September 23rd, 2019, I had bariatric surgery. So it was quite a journey to get to that point, to actually get to the surgery, because there's a lot of mental work that happens in the background of that. So actually realizing that I had an issue was probably the biggest thing. With anything, awareness is always key, right?
Yeah.
I couldn't do it alone. I had tried every fad diet out there. I've tried to restrict, I've tried to purge, I've tried to do all of it, and it just, nothing ever stuck. And I was listening to your preamble before I got on, and you're right, people judge. And I mean, at my biggest, I was my most invisible. And so people would let the door slam in front of me. They wouldn't hold the door. They wouldn't even look at me. I'd walk into a room and people would like put stuff on the chair beside them so I couldn't sit there. Flying in an airplane was really uncomfortable. But yeah, so there's all of these things that people don't realize when they're not in that sort of setting, right? When you're a big person, those are all things that you have to deal with and daily, like sometimes multiple times a day. So now having lost the weight, not lost it because I don't want to find it, but I shed the weight. And
Now that the weight is gone.
Let it go.
Let it go. Yeah, 150 pounds lighter, and I live in a completely different body. So along with that journey of losing the weight, I also had some plastic surgeries to take away like the excess skin, and then also a lot of counseling on the backside of things, because we often think that it's a physical sort of transformation, but for me it was more than just physical. It was actually a mental transformation as well, because nothing prepares you. It's like having a baby. You don't know what to do unless you have to deal with that, right? And so yeah, I mean, I had to learn how to be in a new body, and my body moved a lot differently, and then I was left with all this excess skin, and nothing prepared me for that. And I mean, they can talk about it and they can kind of tell you about it, but until you're there, you have no idea, right?
Yeah.
And so when people say, oh, you just never understand, you look so beautiful, or like weird comments all the time, a lot of like why I wore the weight as a trauma response and kind of a shield of armor. Once I took that off, I had to deal with all of that stuff coming at me daily, right? So it's been quite a transformation.
Visible.
Yeah, and being visible. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's an incredible transformation, and I would encourage anybody that is out there looking to do something like that to reach out and to know that you don't have to do it alone, and there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with you at any size. So whether you're a larger woman or a larger man, it doesn't matter. Like for me, it was more about for myself. I did it for me, and I did it because I have 4 kids at home who I want to enjoy my life with them. So yeah, so that's about like the meat and potatoes side of things with that. And speaking of meat and potatoes, that's all I grew up on, right? Like that was the majority of how I got to where I was. So I'm glad that I've learned a lot along the way about like nutrition and healthy habits and all sorts of things like that too. So expanding beyond the vegetable garden, I guess, like of vegetables and roast beef.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I know I had another guest on connected with Cari years ago who underwent bariatric surgery as well. And then she had excess skin as well. And she had to do surgeries and some of it wasn't paid for by Alberta Healthcare as well. So there's also the expense side of things that no one talks about as well. Like you just think, oh yeah, they're going for surgery and it's covered. And it's like, no, because sometimes it's like an aesthetic. It's not necessarily medical, right? So it's really interesting how it's kind of organized into sections on, what we can, what is paid off by Alberta Healthcare, what isn't. So yeah, that's definitely something you need to check out if you're looking into even just doing the surgery as well as, and if you can't afford it, are you going to be okay to wait? Are you like, there's so many avenues with this,
Definitely.
right?
Yeah. Like I mean, for such an incredible amount of energy that goes into, educating people about obesity and the judgment that goes along with it, one would think that the healthcare system would put a little bit more into it and have some of that covered. However, I did choose to go out of country for my surgeries.
Okay.
And I had amazing experiences. The one thing that happened on my second surgery was kind of a fluke, I guess. It wasn't anything that the surgeon did or anything, but I ended up on a period of bed rest for about 7 months. And so that was more from a lack of compression, just from post-care and not recognizing what I needed at the time. And so, but in coming from out of country, they wouldn't help me here in the healthcare system here. So I ended up having to be an extreme advocate for myself and kind of walking them through. I ended up having to like call the surgeon multiple times and then threatening to take them to the board and stuff because they wouldn't actually touch me. Like I remember the first time that I went into the ER to say like something's wrong, something is happening, and I had sat down and there was like a squishy pillow type thing on the back of my lower back, and it blew out the side. And they were like, well, have you been out of country? And I was like, yeah. And then the guy gowned up and gloved up and was like, we can't touch you. And I just was like, well, this isn't okay. Like I may or may not have an infection. Yeah. And so I don't know, like some of this time too, like looking back, I think there's things that maybe I wouldn't have told. But it's all part of the journey. And I knew that like the universe has a reason for this, right? And that was hard to see at first. But in the end, and now looking back, it was the best thing that ever happened to me, because there were so many other things that needed to have a period of growth or like culling and all of those things too. So it was all part of the process. But yeah, and the financial aspect of going out of town or out of country is really, it can be quite costly in North America actually to have those surgeries, because they are considered elective surgeries. And so you have to prepare for all of the things, not just the surgery itself, but the post-care and stuff like that. One of the things I wanted to quickly comment about is that eating can be quite costly too. So as an obese person that I was before, I was throwing food away. I was throwing up food. Like it was quite a costly disease to me, more than financially. So I mean, I would grab stuff, and it just shameful behaviors of like grabbing stuff out of garbage and eating it, or eating the bottom half of the ice cream so I could flip it over and so nobody would know that there's not as much ice cream in the thing. So there's a lot of shame and guilt that go around with that, but it is a costly disease on many, many levels.
Yeah,
I think that's an important thing to point out, Anna. I do want to hear more though, and dig into this 7 months of bed rest, because there was huge growth that happened there. That was quite a twist in your experience, and what the road that took you down. And as a mom as well, as a wife, as the leader of a company that you were trying to run at the same time. And I don't want us to brush that aside, because maybe that's not going to be everybody's experience, but they can learn from what you learned in that.
Yeah, I think when I look back on that journey, a lot of what I learned was that we aren't meant to do this life alone, whether we're one size or another. I laid there probably, like I knew that I was prepared for like the 6 to 8 week mark. I wasn't prepared for the 7 month mark, or even the 4.5 month mark, right? And so in that time, after about 6 weeks, and when I had to go get help, I ended up on a wound vac. I had to advocate for myself. I actually had 2 different surgeries to re-debride the wounds and stuff like that. So sparing all of those juicy details of like what that wound care looked like, because it was quite nasty sometimes. But I am grateful for that system and those people that came to the house. But I vividly remember like looking out my bedroom window, or like the doorway, and it looks into our kitchen, and I just remember my husband kind of stirring something on the stove, and the look of devastation on his face and complete exhaustion was just heart-wrenching, really, because you never want to put anybody in that sort of situation. And as a bigger person most of my life, I was wanting to be super independent. I was going to show everybody that I wasn't going to be lazy. I was going to do it all. And I worked harder than anybody ever imagined, right? Like I was not going to be that person that was going to drag anybody down. And so when I looked at him and he was completely exhausted, I knew I had to change something, and it had to be like from my bed. So actually I sent a message to one friend and just said, is there anybody that you could reach out to, or could you come and help meal prep something, just so my husband could have a little bit of downtime. At that point, like I said, we have 4 kids, and he was running them to and from activities and appointments, and he was still trying to manage his job and stuff like that, and then all of the house duties as well. From my perspective, I was useless. Like I didn't have I couldn't get up. I couldn't go to the bathroom by myself. I couldn't do a lot of the daily activities of just being a human, let alone being useful and helping anybody else. So that cry for help, or that text message that I had sent, actually bloomed into something more than what I ever imagined. My friend reached out to a group that I volunteered with, and the ladies came together in a cooking storm and made a whole bunch of freezer meals for us. And to be honest, being on the receiving side of that was very humbling. Nothing I'd ever experienced before, and
Yeah.
it was incredibly overwhelming. But I graciously accepted those meals because I knew that was going to be a turnkey for my husband. And just the amount of generosity that came from the people around me was incredible, and I'm super grateful for that. So I think the biggest thing that most people forget about is that we have to be humans in all of this, right? So, when somebody's down on their luck or somebody needs a hand up, sometimes it's just a meal or even a phone call. And so leaning in on that. And then from the business perspective, I mean, I leaned on the people that I had hired and I knew would be great for the job, but they also stopped by, like my staff stopped by and gave gifts and, came to see how I was doing. And so that was really special to me because it really told a story of the things that I've poured into and how they come back to you. So community is really important in all of this.
Yeah. Oh, that is so sweet.
Well, and the way
you
that
hired
they
great
also,
people.
yeah, and the way that they rose to the occasion and helped you continue to run that business as you are bedridden for months.
Yeah.
That speaks to the leader that you'd been and the way that you hired and the environment that you'd created amongst your team.
Well, and I think that comes to do it's a part of like the setup of any business. You want to make sure that you can work yourself out of a job. And so I've always had that mindset, not in that sense of I want to be like bedridden or anything, but you want to be able to pull yourself out of it, out of the equation, and it still go on. And so in those 7-ish months, about the 4.5 month mark, I was like, something else has to change, because I started to get this itch of like this, what am I doing with my time? The days were long. There was nobody around. Everybody's at work. The kids are at school. And so I ended up actually taking some courses and sinking into connecting with other people through social media and stuff like that. I leaned on some of my surgery sisters and brothers that I had met along the way, and just developed a lot of good conversational type skills. And so and then I also wanted to share that like having some sort of transition like that is really difficult on relationships, like as in with my husband, right? He was dealing with his part of it and I was dealing with mine. And that, I mean, when you're raising 4 children and trying to do all of the things too, you start to go your own separate ways. And I was lucky enough that we continued to still choose each other and to support each other through all of that. And so we are still together, and he's like an amazing guy, and I can't imagine life without him, because he's been here at my biggest, and he's been here now with my healthy weight. So he's learned an incredible amount about me and taught me a lot about myself too. So he's not squeamish about any of that. And so if anybody needed to talk about and that side of things, I know that he's open to the conversation too. And that's something that we learned, is that there's really nothing that's off the table when you're knee deep in it all, and you're, like I had to flip over to have bandages changed and all of the rest of it. It just like, it's just a body, and we're all human. Yeah. So yeah.
That's incredible, especially through the transition. Like you say, at this size and that size, but then all that messy part of the whole transition of that, and to have that kind of support.
Yeah.
You don't know when you end up with someone, some of the stuff you're going to have to face together, but to keep those lines of communication open, and for him to recognize where that had come from. Now, you started out talking about the trauma and how that really had led to
the eating,
really contributed to who you had become. And so when you have to open that up for yourself, but then you're healing it And then to have support and be able to feel safe to share that and have someone support you through that healing is very important.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest part of the transition too, is making sure that you do have that safety net, right? Of can I count on myself? Can I count on my partner? Who can I count on? And really looking
Yeah.
at the hard parts of things and recognizing where to go with that, right? There is,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I lost friends through this. I still have
Oh, yeah.
people that I haven't connected with. And unfortunately, I think that that's a relationship, like they're everything, reasons and season for things. And
Yeah.
I know that there's one specific person who's still in my life and will make comments about, oh, are you sure this is where you want to be? Like, here, have another donut, or here, have this, and almost that self-sabotaging type thing. But clearly, I know that they're uncomfortable with it, right? Like, I'm happy with who I am, and I can confidently say that now. Whereas, um, I don't need to take everybody's comments or advice or anything like that. And so that's changed along that process too. But a lot of like all of that stuff, it didn't happen overnight. It's not a quick fix like anybody thinks. I've heard those sorts of comments too, where you had bariatric surgery, your life must be so easy. And I actually turned to the nurse and I said, actually, every day is still a struggle. And she's like, really?
Yeah.
But you're so beautiful. And I said, you know what? I still have to do the internal work. It's not something that I can't live without. I have to still eat. I still have to make the right choices. I
Yeah.
still have to feed myself every day, multiple times a day, because my stomach is much smaller than it used to be. I now have to deal with a little bit of vitamin deficiencies, so I have to take care of that side of things too. And just really be on top of my game. There's a lot of planning and prepping that happens on the backside that people don't recognize. And so when I actually get a little bit offended when people say your life must be so easy, because no, you know what? It's simpler in the fact that I'm not carrying an extra 150 pounds, but that's about as simple as it might be.
Yeah.
Everything else is still a lot of work. I still work at nourishing my body, my brain, my soul. I still work at trying to get movement in a day. Dina and I talk often. Have you went for your walk yet? Like, and the other night we actually ended up walking together in two separate cities, but we do
Yeah.
what we can and we make it work, right? So
Yeah.
it doesn't have to look perfect. It doesn't have to look pretty, but one step each day is further than you were before. So
Yeah.
it's all the transformation is done in the head for me, anyways.
Yeah. Absolutely. I was going to say before, congratulations on choosing a partner in life that's just beside you all the time and just there for you. Like no questions, no whatever, like not giving a second thought, not just walking out on hard times, just there, solid, like a rock. That's what, a true partner is and a good spouse. So yeah, congratulations on that end. And now, of course, everything that you've been through, your children have witnessed this as
Yes, they
well.
have. Yep.
So, what is their life? Because obviously their life has changed through the process as well. How has it changed, and what have they learned through this as well?
Yeah, and we have open conversations about this, because I love reminiscing about, like, and looking through pictures, and they flip through my phone and stuff and they're like, "Oh, I remember when this was." And so we do have conversations, and I ask, like, "Do you remember when mom was that big or whatever?" And they're like, "Yeah, but you're no different, and now you do lots of things." And so they recognize that the transformation that's happened. Like, I mean, they even visited me in the hospital. How could they not, right? So
Yeah.
it has impacted them. I think the conversation is a lot more open about things in the home. Like, is this something that we want? Is this something that you need right now? Are you nourishing your body? Are you choosing, unhealthy snacks before breakfast? Like, maybe we should look at this a little bit better, right? Candy for breakfast? I don't know. But sometimes it's funny. I do have a story about this though, because one night they were like, "I think we should have birthday cake for supper one night." And I was like, "Yeah, I think so." So one night I brought birthday cake home, and they were like, "This is so cool, a Costco sized birthday cake." And I was like, "Yeah, and this is for supper." And they were like, "Okay, okay, okay." And then they get through that, and then a couple of hours later, they're like, "So what's for supper?" Like, and I'm like, "I thought we were talking about birthday cake and we ate it already." Like, we didn't eat the whole thing, but we had
We
enough to
had
satisfy.
dinner.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they were like, for real? That is so funny. So like it's building those memories with them too about food is just food. And I'm trying to like destigmatize that and not limiting per se certain
Or
things
shaming
or
it.
shaming
Yeah,
it.
or
Yeah, like
shaming it.
there's
Yeah.
no judgment. If you want a piece of cake, have a piece of cake. Maybe you don't have an extra large piece of cake every day, right?
Or don't
And
eat a
so,
whole Costco cake.
right, yeah. I've actually like begrudgingly like thrown away Costco cake, and I'm a birthday cake lover, but there's things that it's not worth it to me anymore to
Yeah.
savor every last bite or eat every bite off my plate. I do start with smaller portions now, and we eat off smaller plates. Like even my kids, those IKEA plates, those little wee ones, we all use those. And it was just a natural progression to not using huge dinner plates. And so, yeah, there's lots of things where my kids have picked up different habits. They're always watching, and so we want to make sure that we're giving them the right messaging and not shaming them or anything. But I mean, we're going into the teenage years now with our daughters and stuff, and so there is a tricky line to follow, right? Like when you're wanting it to be a healthy led conversation rather than a shameful one, or dictating what they should be and shouldn't be. And so there's lots of questions that come up that I don't always have the answers to, and I share from my own experience, and that's the best I can do right now. I don't know what they're going through all the time either. And I've looked through phone history and stuff like that and seen some things that maybe aren't delightful to see as a parent. Like, what's the average weight of a 12 to 14-year-old girl? And that pains me a little bit, that this is still a generation that's dealing with all of this judgment and wondering if we're good enough. And, all of these sorts of shameful behaviors around food and health and wellness, right? And I think that as a generation, we should move into educating and accepting, and rather than being mad about all of the shaming that goes around, getting curious as to why it's there in the first place.
Yeah. I want to go back just real quick, and then Dina can, because I know she was itching to say something, but I just wanted to go into like the body shaming part, because as women, we grew up like every other woman out there with the whole body shaming and the body image. You got to look a certain way, and whatever is out there on the magazine covers or whatever's now on Instagram models, all that stuff. Like this is the thing, but I just want to also add in now, it's not just women. I think men more now deal with it than they have before. It's just, I don't think it was out in the media as much. Right. So now it's like, okay, we have to also look at our teenage sons, the young adults going, well, how are they feeling as well? Because there's such a body image that comes with being a male that, they need to be strong and healthy and however, and then they may be looking at, getting into taking steroids at an earlier age to be bigger and stronger. So this is not just a woman or a girl thing. This is both sexes can go through this, right? So I wanted to just kind of bring that up real quick. So if anyone's kind of watching and you have, questions on that, we will try our very best to help you out and get some help for sure. Cause it's not easy. We've all definitely, I remember seeing posters going, oh, I wish I looked like her or whatever. And, but it comes with acceptance over the years, right? And it's very hard. Like there's still days and I'm like, oh, I want to look better in a bikini. And, and there's Dina just rocking it out. So, there's that.
Okay, we're not even going to go there. But I'm happy you brought up the boys too, because I think it's very important, and I really admire how Anna's doing this with her family as well, because she has a son. And not only are we going to recognize that boys need a healthy self-image, they need a healthy image of women and girls. And what is, if they hear their dad saying something derogatory about the shape of or size or whatever of a woman, that becomes a standard that they internalize. Or they hear their mom going, oh, I'm going on another diet, or oh, I look so fat in this, or whatever it might be. Then they're like, okay, I guess that's the standard. And so not only accepting self-images for boys and men, but also that they have these healthy, honest discussions. And I think that's something that Anna, for example, is modeling with her family. They talk openly about her journey. The kids know what that's like. They hear how she talks, and her husband, about food and how they're feeding their bodies and what's nutritious. And let's, like, it's not taboo. Like, why not just have cake for supper some night? Let's just have fun with it. It's not going to be some shameful thing that everybody's going to feel guilty about it. And, and talking to hearing his sisters. And maybe they talk about, oh, I don't like how this fits. And then the family just, like, Anna's like, oh, well, what don't you like about it? Or, that's fine. You're supposed to be shaped like that. Or as you get into the teenage years, your body's going to change. It's going to fill out in certain areas or whatever it might be, right? So
go into a whole nother topic. Yeah.
And why can't the boys be involved in those conversations?
Yeah, I mean, there's a seat at the table for everyone, because it does, the conversation it impacts everyone, no matter what, right? Like you said, I think there's that destigmatization that needs to happen around food, because once we give it power to be shameful and guilt ridden and stuff like that, it's really a disappointing tool to be able to take up space in your toolbox. It's not useful at that point, when we start to give it that power where it starts to lead our life in a negative direction. And so if we take that away by just saying, hey, let's have cake one night, and I think that there is that power that you regain that control, and just by having those open conversations, because boys, girls, any human, they all need the same, they all need to be nourished, they all need to move their body. We all know that's where the education is leading now, with health and wellness, and it being such a big industry in itself. And so the conversation starts even when they're little, like it's the things like the comments that I learned from a very young age, like you eat what you took, right? Like, even though as a 2 or 3 year old, I didn't know that I wasn't I wasn't that hungry, but you're going to damn well eat this, right? But it's those habits, we have to start looking and getting curious about those. Like, why do we eat what we do? What, when we're looking at our plate, what are you eating first? What are you filling your body with first? Start getting curious about things, because it really is the doorway that opens to a lot of conversations. And I'm very happy that my kids are, and well, not just my kids, but most people around me are pretty, excited to have a conversation deeper than the weather. And so we like to talk deep, and I just want it to be a safe space where people can open up and be curious about things, so that they don't have to get to where I was, where I felt that shame and guilt and had to do something dramatic about it. So
I think that can be fun. Now, this isn't an advertisement. There's no affiliation with this app, but Yuka, it's YUCA, is something that we heard about, and it's something that could be done with families. That's really fun. And it's just an app for free that, I mean, there's a paid version, but you can just scan products, and it will give you feedback on the additives, or how it rates it on a scale of 1 to 100 of what's healthy about it, what isn't healthy about it. And it's just a fun thing you could do with your family, is just go around and say, like, hey, I wonder how healthy this is for us, or what's in it. Do we stop and even think about it? Educate yourself. Exactly. And then it's like, it doesn't mean it's forbidden. It just means you're eating it with an awareness.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think that's too, like, where I had gone wrong in a lot of ways, is that I over analyzed everything. Whereas getting curious and having some fun with it lightens the mood around it, right? Taking things back. Dina and I have had conversations about taking things back to the simplicity of, like, just moving and nourishing and sleeping, right? Like, those are your main things that keep your body going and in a healthy state. And so when we start to, look at every can in the grocery store, and then you're in there for 4 hours, like, who has time for that? We don't. Like, no, nobody nobody has time for that. But you know what? Get curious when you do have time, and
Yeah.
and make time for that, right? So
I want to make a point on that though. When I was going to the Catholic Church quite a bit, for Lent, I gave up dairy and meat. And so it was actually a little bit of a challenge because I had to look at boxes to see if it included any dairy product. So over time, I actually got to know what I could eat, what I couldn't eat, whatever. But there were some things I was like, oh, I would love to eat this, but all dairy, I'm like, I'll save it for Sunday.
You got a stack of stuff at the end.
Now, what's interesting though, okay, was one day I was actually out at Dairy Queen. It was a Sunday, and it was like Sunday fun day. And what was interesting was that they actually make vegan ice cream bars at Dairy Queen. So there's a lot of different healthy alternatives that are out there when you do want to start making those decisions of like, oh, I do want to cut back on this or, whatever. So it's interesting that there is now a wider variety of healthier foods out there and that meet different dietitian needs. And, so it's interesting. So, but yeah, sometimes I'd say 4 hours is too much.
Yeah.
But, sometimes if you throw something in your cart and you don't know that there's dairy in it by whatever, it is what it is. Who cares? To eat it once, then next time, whatever, right? Don't shame yourself as well. Because sometimes it's just going to happen. And nowadays, like there are products that will it says may contain milk or whatever. So it doesn't mean it's going to have it, but it may have just been in the processing plant with dairy products or whatever, right? So that's another thing, like don't freak out over it, just relax.
I want to dig in more to some of the tools, Anna, that you have found that are helpful, especially the headspace. Like what kind of are your go-to things for yourself or even for your family? Like you said, it's a daily practice.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I start every morning with a gratitude journal. It brings me back to just being present and aware of what's good in my life. And it is a forced pause kind of thing where I take a look at what is around me. And sometimes it's really, really difficult but sometimes, it's easy and it's become a lifeline for me. So I do carry a journal with me. Dina knows that when we get together, I'm like, hey, did you bring your journal? Okay, I got an extra one. So I do like to take notes, and I do like to kind of document things as they come up. Also a growth mindset. I think that just like, and open to anything, just, having that curious, open-hearted conversation with anybody, right? And having fun. Some of the tools you're saying, I meal prep, and I do, so a little bit of history about my family too is that we have neurodivergence in our home, and so with that comes sensory issues and stuff like that. So a lot of different palates, which means that I don't always get to cook one meal and everybody eat it. And so sometimes I cook meals ahead of time and just freeze them, and I keep them in individual portions. So then on those days where it's difficult for everybody to find something, they just go to the freezer and choose what they want. I do kind of tend to lean towards soups and stuff, like more heartier type stuff like that, because you can get lots of vitamins and packed in and nutrition packed into those sorts of things. I tend to stay to the outside of the grocery store if I can, the outside aisles, because that's typically where your most nutritious food and your fresher food will be, is in the freezers and stuff around the outside aisles. Sometimes I will do cookouts with friends and make it a little simpler, rather than, like, I used to like cooking a lot. When you get a whole bunch of different palettes, it's really frustrating. And when they start to push things away and they're like, I'm not eating this or whatever, I kind of lost my juju around the kitchen. And so even when we
like,
were
here's some cake. no.
Yeah, well, and even when we were doing renos, the contractors would be like, "What do you want in your kitchen?" I'm like, "I don't even want a kitchen." Like,
What kitchen?
so
There's no
Yeah.
kitchen here.
it was like, "Well, we kind of have to have a kitchen," and I was like, "I agree," because microwaving everything isn't always great either. Pizza pops and whatever else fit in there. Yeah, no.
Well, you
But
include your husband and family also. They're included in some of this food prep, which really is cool because it's when you're contributing, you're more likely to eat it, or you feel like you've had some input, or you're interested
yeah.
in what's happening with the food.
Well, and I think that that's a great point that you bring up too, is that, they're going to express what they want and what their bodies like. I find that kids will just reach for what they need, right? And so
Mhm.
if they're looking for quick energy now, they're probably going to reach for the sugar snacks that are on the bottom shelf, right? Like if that's not what you want them to reach for, then we start putting strawberries and other fruits and yogurts and things in their reach. I am a person that believes in like independence. I've been an independent person too, so I really want my family to be self-sufficient and able to provide for themselves too. So I have taken a lot of things in the home, like process wise, made it efficient for them and made it easy for them too. So it takes a lot of that executive functioning away, in the fact that they don't have to make all of these decisions so quickly and on the go. That some of them are already made for them. So like my kids know that there's a list of snacks. If they're like, "Oh, I don't know what to eat," because I hear that all the time. I don't know what to eat. I'm not having that. And after I've suggested like 10 different things, I'm like, go to the list, like choose something from there. Maybe, and I've made it into categories and stuff. So I'm a little bit more in depth with that sort of thing, because I do want them to be independent enough to make the decision, but I also want to give them choice. And so I'm not just saying eat this or else, which is kind of how I wouldn't say like that's how I grew up, but that there wasn't as many options back then.
Yeah.
And so now being faced with grocery stores with aisles and aisles and aisles of food, if I were to take them grocery shopping, God help me. So
For
I actually
the pizza pops.
yeah, so I do a lot of the
cake.
Tyler does a lot of the grocery shopping actually. So
That's nice.
yeah,
That's
it's we and that's another thing is we divvy up things around the house.
Yeah.
So involving them is really important, especially if you're trying to educate them. Just giving the push, but not necessarily pushing them over the edge. You got to give them the information to be able to choose too. So
yeah. Oh yeah, that's good. And then
How
Dina,
would
I
you-
think,
Go ahead.
sorry, because I think Dina was also thinking more the mental state as well of, how do we handle those situations? Like if you're confronted with, just say trauma comes up and it just brings you right back when you're faced with something that's sitting in front of you. Like how do you, have you cried about it, or do you just go, okay, well, there might be a running commentary in your head when there's food in front of you. So I think she wanted to touch on like how do you mentally, those mental tricks as well. Yeah.
Well, those are a little bit trickier because they come when you're least expecting them, when your guard is down and you're exhausted and everything else is being flung in your face. So typically I will pause, because if I don't pause, then I say shit I don't want to say. I realize that that's a response that I have, right? I don't always show up in the best way that I want to. And so I pause. I've learned the pause, the power of the pause. And so I also have put in some requests to reach out to like Reiki healers or counselors, and kind of dug into why I do the things that I do, and realizing that a lot of this stemmed back to kind of like the way that you attach to people, and so your attachment styles and your love languages and all of that. So doing a lot of reading and diving into self-help books and just getting, like I said, just getting curious about those sorts of things. When I'm in the moment, I sometimes have to remove myself from it. So there's situations where I've actually left places. I've had anxiety attacks about it because I just can't deal with it. It becomes too overwhelming. And so in those moments, I do remove myself, or even if I go like, I don't want to say off the rails, but like if I have, an outburst or something like that, I do take some time to kind of rewind and look at what happened there and reflect. And so I think that power comes back to you because you are sinking back into the knowledge and wisdom that you have internally, but also that you've learned. And so you can kind of rewrite the story going forward and giving yourself some grace, right? For
Oh
me,
yeah.
the mistakes that I'm human, we all are. And I think that recognizing that I can make a mistake, yet I can still move forward and still be impactful moving forward. I think that there's brilliance in recognizing that too. And then also just reaching out to friends. Like I said, going back to that community and knowing that I can't do it all by myself. Yeah, the mental work is really difficult because there's some days where you're just stuck in it, and there's times where it will start right away in the morning, that food noise, and I can't get out of it. And so it's like I'm like dreading putting one foot in front of the other. But I also don't keep things that in my home that really trigger me. And to be honest, my home is actually my safe zone. And so, and I've kept that very very clean for me, as in I don't allow a lot of the outside world to come into it as much as I can. So yeah, it's about setting things up for success for yourself and letting and telling other people about it, right? Like you have to let people know of your goals and your dreams and those sorts of things if you're going to go anywhere. Like it doesn't work to be in a silo. It really doesn't help you, because when you're struggling, nobody else knows. That's where that judgment piece comes in, right? Where people are like, I don't know what she's dealing with. And which is also a conversation that I've had with my kids. We never know the story. So actually, you know, when somebody cuts us off in traffic or something like that, I'm like, he must have had to poop or something, right? Like you just make up a funny story because it can be like triggering at the time. But
yeah,
I when we start to make things a little bit more realistic or unrealistic in the time, whatever needs to happen, it becomes a little more manageable. So having some time to play with that too. So yeah,
well, it allows others to support us when we share what journey we're on, but it inspires others and encourages others. And they're like, oh, I'm not alone in this. I think like that's huge. Anna, this might be really, you can refuse this request, but I'm curious to know if you have a message that you would want to say to Anna, the young Anna. What would you say?
Ooh.
And it might be something
I do have a regular, so yeah, and I do have a regular mantra that I do say, like I can do hard things, and I've done many hard things in my life. And so that my message to my daughters, because it's easier to talk that way than it is to talk to yourself, because but it's just loving who you are with where you are, because it can change in an instant. My 7-month bed rest, I mean, that ripped every label I had for myself off of me. And like I said, I wasn't any of those things. I wasn't a good mom at that point, in the fact that I couldn't provide for my children. I couldn't get out of bed by myself. I wasn't a volunteer. I wasn't running a business. I wasn't doing all of the things that I kind of took on as my label,
value.
My value. Yeah. And so really recognizing who you are and the value you bring to the world is really important, because everybody is here for a reason, and you've got to figure out what that is. And so I know my purpose in life is to help other people. And if I'm not well and my wellness and health and wellness is impacted, then I can't show up the best I can for other people. So I really take that into consideration, right? So be who you are in this moment. Be present, because looking at the past, you're looking the wrong way, and anticipating the future, you're missing out on right now. So
you know, you were saying, you know, you weren't the best mom, you weren't this, you weren't that, but looking back, I wouldn't even beat yourself over it, because now you can go, you know, I did that. It's more of being proud in that moment, because you had to stop and you had to take care of you. You know, it was that self-care first, so you can pour into others, right? So definitely.
And sometimes when we step out of the equation, it allows other people to step in too, right? And it allowed my family to kind of step up. My son, actually, who's 9, I guess he's 10 now. Oh my gosh, time flies. But he actually was never in the, like, didn't want to cook or anything. And it was in that 7 months that he learned to cook, and he loves cooking. And so now he makes all kinds of breakfasts and
Maybe
different
he'll be a
meals and
chef.
stuff. Maybe.
Could be his career.
But
You
it
had
was
to
also
open the
evident.
career door for him. That's, see, things
Well,
are
it's
meant to
definitely a
happen.
passion, and this is how we develop, right? We get
Yeah.
exposed to things. And I think when we had, like, when I had that mindset of like, I can do it all, it doesn't really make it better for anybody. We're taking those opportunities away. And I once spoke about this on at a women's conference, was that giving someone the opportunity to give to you is actually a gift as well. So not always being the giver is okay, and to be a receiver is good too, because it goes both ways.
And your 7 months is further proof and evidence that you can do hard things. You did a hard thing, and you showed
Absolutely.
your children by example as well. It's kind of a similar story, and I've shared this before, that I'd been in an accident. I had 2 hands in splints. I'd had multiple surgeries. One ankle was broken. I'm in an air boot and 2 hand splints, and I'm turning down help, all help. And I was
Sounds like Dina.
Thankfully though, I was seeing a therapist, and she said, okay, so how does it make you feel to offer to help someone and they accept? I said, oh, it feels great. And she goes, why are you denying people that they can see, obviously you need help, and you're turning it down and also denying them? So when she reframed that and said, you're denying them the opportunity to have that good feeling of being able to help you when you obviously need help.
Gina, it's right in front
and
of
then
you.
I was like,
You're like, knock, knock, anybody home? Like, I can tell you right now what needs to happen.
No, I can't even wipe my own ass, but I don't need help.
Did you buy a bidet at that moment? And you're like,
No.
okay.
No.
Baby wipes.
I've been there too, where I couldn't wipe my own bum. It's not pretty, right? Like,
it's
these
humbling.
are things that, it is very humbling.
Yeah.
But the lesson is, it's okay to ask for help, and you actually are giving people an opportunity to help you, and that also fills their cup. And karma's going to come around. You've always been a helper, or you are now able to fill that opportunity for them. Like, there's so much in that, and it is growth.
Yeah. It definitely has been a very compact period of growth, in the fact that it's only been 6 years. But like, looking back at that original decision to have bariatric surgery, I couldn't have imagined where I'd be now. Like, there's just nothing that prepares you for that journey, and how great it will be, even in the difficult moments. So my message to anybody, like, kind of facing those types of hard decisions, life transitions, anything like that, is that just small steps, one in front of the other, and you can do hard things, and that it doesn't matter where you are or where you're headed. It's about just start somewhere, do something.
Oh yeah, just the littlest, tiniest things always helps. And that's it. Then you kind of always see who's on your journey with you, who's there to help you. And it's quite surprising to see who does step up and help, especially when it comes to children, because they're like, oh yeah, I want to help. I want to help. I want to help. Because they get to step into their power and go, look what I can do. Right. And they're helping. And now look at your son. He's going to be like this big master sous chef of the world someday.
Yeah. I'll let you know when we make money off of him. Okay.
Right. I will interview him on my show.
Awesome,
he'll be like the next Gordon Ramsay, Well,
I don't know. He's a little bit more shy than that guy, but he is pretty good in the kitchen, though. So
that's good. You'll get him. Does he watch Chef Ramsay?
I'm not sure if he does or not.
You may have to show him a couple shows.
Yeah.
I don't know about the swearing, but viewer discretion is advised.
Final thoughts. Is there anything we didn't touch on, Anna, that you would like to mention before we wrap up?
No, I think going back to your original point of you just never know someone's story. And so
Mhm.
those assumptions really kill the vibe. You could be missing out on something really good and you have no idea. And so the size of somebody does not matter and should not matter. I would get curious about, and I do get curious too, is like, how can I help that person? Like Carrie was saying in the beginning, encouraging them at the gym and encouraging them when you see them out walking. Those types of people, I was one of them. It was very far and few between that we had any words of encouragement, right? And so lead with love and kindness. And I think that that's a really big part of it, is that those assumptions and that judgment just absolutely penetrate. And the thing is we have that for ourselves anyways. We don't need it from anybody else.
I think what I want to mention here too that comes to mind is if you are somebody that's struggling with weight and you are feeling invisible, is to see yourself, is really allow yourself to be seen. And I'm a recovering invisible woman for different reasons, coming from trauma and abuse and trying to be invisible that way. But I can relate to that invisibility and just have some courage, feel encouraged, feel seen. You matter, you are worthy no matter what size. So try and be brave and instead of invisible.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm always open to the conversation. So if anybody has any questions, I can share more of my experience. And it's part of the healing too, is to be able to share that with others. And so it's really I'm really grateful to be here today, because sharing this message helps me solidify it even more as to how far I've actually come, and it's something to be proud of, right? So
thank you very much for spending time with us
thank
and
you.
sharing your story with the audience and the people that are out there. We will be sure to have your contact information in the show notes as well, so that people can take you up on that invitation, Anna.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much again.
Thank you. Oh my goodness. Wonderful. Thank you, Anna, so much for being vulnerable with us and sharing your story. And like you said, yeah, it's just sometimes we just need someone to talk to, have you by your side and go, hey, like this is all I need right now is just someone to just talk to. They don't have to give you anything, any feedback, but just to listen, right? So anyone that's listening out there and you've heard Anna's story, we hope that she's helped you out today. We hope that we helped you out today. And whatever part of your weight loss journey or whatever you're on for your journeys, whether it's mental or whatever in your health journey, because I want to say mental is part of your the health as well. So whatever part of the journey you're on, just keep going. Don't stop. Just know that every single day it's just going to get better. You just got to keep working at it. Even if you have a bad day, we all do, just hang in there and then just keep another day. Keep a journal, or Dina or Anna will send you a journal.
I've got lots.
Just got lots. There you go. Thank you, Anna, so much. And hopefully we'll have you back for another show the next season, maybe.
Awesome. Thanks, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, Dina, we got to close out the show. You can't just run off real super quick, but season 5 finale today. We've been through so much. We've been through so much shit. Because it's uncensored.
Left, right, and center. It's a real shit show.
It is a ship show. So if you do want to be on the show, you guys are watching, and you feel free to contact us, and we'll discuss and see if we can have you on one of our future shows. And so this has been season 5. So Dina, I want to just say thank you for putting up with all my shift.
Likewise.
Just all the shift happens sometimes, and my techie stuff happens, and all of our fun and what we've been through. It's been great so far. And I look forward to season 6 with you and not counting any shows, and this will be great.
Okay. I love it. Thank you, Carrie. This is always a blast.
You're very welcome, Gina. I love you, Shifty Shifter. You're just amazing. I'm like Shifty. And we love you, shifters.
Mine
out there too.
Hearts, but there's a heart for you.
Yeah, if you have a Mac computer and you have iOS software, then you're good. So that's okay. It's my love, everyone. So we'll see you guys season 6. stay tuned. You'll see our posts up. Have a wonderful day, a wonderful weekend coming up. Hopefully it'll be some sun out there. Let's shift into a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you soon. Bye.